If you're in business, you probably have a website, but can your site handle your growth? How many visitors before your site slows down or crashes? What about storage and data security? From web hosting to virtual servers, Pair Networks provides the online infrastructure you need to start, grow, and flourish. When it comes to security and updates, don't worry, we've got you covered. Our 24/7 US-based customer support is the best in the industry. No frustrating chatbots or sitting on hold for hours. Check out pair.com today to learn more. That's PAIR.com.
Hello and welcome back to Chasing Excellence, a show about chasing what truly matters. My name is Patrick Cummings. As always, I'm here with Ben Bergeron. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks, Patrick. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to be here too. It's a beautiful day. We are starting something. I almost said we're starting something new, but we're not. We're evolving what we've been doing for many years now. We're evolving it once more. I'm really excited. We've been working on this kind of behind the scenes for the last month or so. We're going to get a slightly different format, slightly hearkening back to our old format, bringing some of the stuff in from what we've been doing for the last 2-ish years. And the long and the short of it, we're going to actually show up in people's feeds. We're going to show up in your feeds twice a week now instead of once. We're going to be there Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings. So we're going to do shorter episodes and more frequent episodes. And in those, I think we're going to try to bring back some of the older formats for folks who have been listening for a while. 2-minute drill, 3x3, maybe even a hopper talk now and again. Bring some of those back into the mix, plus some new things that we're thinking about and going to play with. So I'm really excited to refresh, I think is the best word for it. I'm really excited to refresh, and going forward, starting this week, starting this episode, you folks can have a slightly different Chasing Excellence.
Yeah, maybe just to add a little bit to that is we are still going to really rely on the questions coming from the community. Yeah. So that's a big part of it. So that Patrick doesn't have to do any work. He's the laziest person I know. 100%. And the other part we're leaning into is trying to batch, like we used to do, more questions around certain topics.
Yep.
So what we found was a little bit like, hey, really cool, but for somebody that might not be into the totality of what we talk about, it's hard to share a certain episode because there's 4 questions about CrossFit before we get to parenting, and they just want to share the parenting part. So we'll kind of batch these things together so they have a little bit more of a through line for each of these episodes, which is cool. That's, again, hearkening back to the way we used to do it.
Yes, well said. Cool. One of the things I didn't want to lose from I can't call it the old format, the most recent format, not every episode, but most episodes, we had a cool down where we did either kind of a recommendation roundup or what we ended up just calling a moment of joy. I don't want to lose those. We don't really have a place for them. So every once in a while, we're going to do them. We're going to enter into episodes with one of those, maybe once a month for each of them. So this time around, we're going to do a moment of joy. So just one thing that we've been thinking about that's been bringing us joy for me, and this is just selfish, is I just really like having a space to think about these things and recognize and be aware of where things are bringing me joy, because that tends to be an emotion or a feeling I don't, unless I reach for it, I don't notice it too often. And so I'll let you go first. I'd love to know what has been bringing you joy, what's brought you joy recently.
So we've definitely had the normal business experience over the last 4 years or so, where there's times of abundance and times of scarcity. There's times of elation and joy, and there's times of struggle and hardship. We are coming out of a hard time, and part of the thing that happens, regardless of where you are in that business life cycle, it's a constant refinement of your team. And this is going to sound weird, and it's not that I'm sadistic or I enjoy things like this, but we have recently let go of part of our team, and the levity on the other side of that is palpable. It's real. It's like it brings joy in that sense, in terms of but not in terms of woo, that person's gone. Not that at all. It's whenever anyone in a leadership position that has had to let someone go, it's super painful. And when you finally make that move and that decision, you have the next path set up of how you're going to move this thing forward. Man, those are always it's what entrepreneurs live for, is those moments of yes, and now let's go. We can now create and do and make. And those are the moments where you can the gap between vision and reality gets closed. And of course, the way we operate is then you just extend it back out again. But those are cool, exciting moments for us.
Good. Love it. I'll go quick because we're already sort of talking about it. But my moment of joy, or the thing that's been bringing me joy lately, has actually been thinking about and working on and putting the various pieces together for this reformat. This has been really fun for me. It's, it's one of those things that we've been doing the podcasts for, 7 or 8 years. And we've been doing that last format for a couple of years. And when you do something that long, you end up kind of getting into a nice groove, right? It becomes like, this is how this happens. This is how I put the podcast out every Tuesday. And you kind of get locked into that. And it's really fun to say, okay, shake the Etch-a-Sketch. Now what? You've got a month to figure out what the new version looks like, or the slightly altered version. And it just it lets you take a step back and say, oh, what do we want to keep? What do we want to get rid of? Why do we want to change this? What do we want to bring back from the past? Why do we do it like this? And just having the space to, quite frankly, stare out the window and say, what if we did this? What if we did that? For me, it's just it's just such a fun place to be. And again, it's one when you kind of settle into the groove, you remove that from the process. And then every once in a while, you can kind of bring it back, kind of in the same way that you're saying now with CompTrain and you shake it up a little bit and you say, okay, things have settled now. What is here now? What can we do differently? What can we do better? How can we look at this in a slightly different perspective? And so for me, again, it's joyful. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to change something, especially something that isn't particularly broken. But that's also part of that joy is, gosh, I hope this works.
We've talked a lot about what brings joy, and we've defined what joy is. And it's not this immediate pleasure. It's not a bowl of ice cream. It's not sitting down watching Netflix. It's not that. But, I think that both of what we're alluding to is this opportunity and chance to grow, create, be creative, and do new things. Everyone's a little bit different in terms of what the things are that set them on fire. And that certainly is a commonality between the two of us. And having those, I love the shake up the Etch-a-Sketch moments. Blank slate, it's blank. It's not blank, but
it's not blank, but you've got some more white space to fill in.
More white space. Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. So cool. Love that. All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about building your health stack, which is an idea we came across recently that we loved and we thought would be a fun way to kick off this new format. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But first, a quick word of thanks from a few sponsors. We're brought to you this week by Element. Have you heard of Element Sparkling yet? It's the same zero sugar electrolyte formulation you already know and trust, but now in a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling water. It's a great choice for all of you health seekers out there. Each can is a step towards better health and away from sugar and stimulant-loaded drinks. Head to drinkelement.com/excellence to learn more and to sign up to become an Element Insider so you can get your hands on Element Sparkling. It comes in amazing flavors like citrus salt, watermelon salt, grapefruit salt, and the debut of black cherry lime, which sounds amazing. It's just 5 calories, 0 grams of sugar, and packed with essential electrolytes, 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, 16 milligrams magnesium. To become an Element Insider, you'll just need to have purchased the Insider Bundle within the last 9 months. Afterwards, as long as you're logged into the website, you'll see and be able to purchase Element Sparkling. They are not sure when Element Sparkling will launch to the broader public, so if you want to be the coolest kid in gym class, becoming an insider is the only way to do it. Just head to drinkelement.com/excellence to learn more, and even if you don't grab yourself an Insider Bundle, you'll still get a free sample pack with any drink mix purchase from our fridge to yours. Welcome to the next chapter in the Salty Rebellion.
Love it. It's so good too. Yep.
We are also brought to you this week by Neurohacker. Have you heard of Senolytics? It's one of the most significant discoveries of our time when it comes to promoting healthy aging and enhancing our physical prime. And you can get yourself a secret weapon in the fight against them with Qualia Senolytics from Neurohacker. Head to neurohacker.com/excellence for up to $100 off. And if you use the code excellence at checkout, you'll save another 15%. What are Senolytics? Sometimes they're called zombie cells, which gives you a pretty good idea. They're old, worn-out cells that take up space and nutrients from our otherwise healthy cells. With Qualia Senolytic, you'll prune away those unwanted cells, allowing the rest to thrive. And the best part, you only have to take it 2 days a month. This product is non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, and comes with a 100-day money-back guarantee. Go to neurohacker.com/excellence for up to $100 off. Use the code excellence at checkout for an additional 15% off. Resist aging at the cellular level with Qualia Senolytic. Like I said, we got this idea for a health stack We got it from, his name is Chris Boyd. I think he posted something on LinkedIn and we saw it. Chris, maybe you're listening. Thanks for this. And in his health stack, which gives a nice example of kind of what we're talking about, he listed CrossFit and CompTrain for health, movement, sport, and competition, Whoop for health, fitness, and sleep tracking, Noble for gear, among others. And so what I wanted to do here is I thought it'd be a good excuse for us to maybe go down the list of the 5 factors, talk about what are the whether they're products, whether they're habits, whether they're activities, whatever we might feel like kind of build up and into our individual stack so that folks can start to think about this maybe in a more holistic way. And one of the things that I think is important to understand with the stack is it originated from computer programming, particularly from the field of software development. And the stack refers to a set of technologies used together to build a single application or project. Each technology in the stack serves a specific function, and they are often chosen because they integrate well with each other. It's also used as a metaphor to describe a collection of tools, resources, or practices that, when used together, achieve a particular function or goal. So obviously, our particular function or goal is going to be building health.
Yeah, first shout out to Chris, because this was actually passed along from my CMO, who found Chris's post, because obviously he tagged us in it. Chris is a big, loyal CompTrain follower, so thanks for following CompTrain, and thanks for this idea. I saw it and I was like, wow, I've actually never heard of this health stack. I think it's a valuable exercise. It's the same type of thing as when I present the importance of values to people. And when part of it is, cool, let's figure out what shapes the values, but also I want to hear other people's, because I might just get default into like what's on my own head. And when I hear other people's ideas of what they value, what they find important, I'm like, ooh, I never thought of curiosity as a thing that I value, but that is really interesting. I've never thought about health being this all-encompassing thing. It's just like, it's a way to whiteboard together about throwing some ideas up. So I think that the way you said it is probably as good a way as any, is to like, let's subdivide these or categorize these into the 5 factors, and I'll share what I use. You know, obviously, people listen to this. If it's a bunch of technologies, that's going to be a limited for me, but I'll do my best to kind of, it's the tools, right? It's And
I think it's more fun. I think the original list that we looked at, they were lists of products. And I think it might be more fun to broaden that out to say, you know, what, again, habits,
methods,
activities,
products,
methods. Yeah. I think that's more fun and honestly more authentic to you and I, anyways. And so, okay, before we get into the what might live in your my health stack, because I'm curious if you have overriding principles that have helped you make decisions of like, oh, this, and this, and not that, and not that.
Yeah, I do, and it's going to be very anticlimactic because we talk about it all the time. It's train 5 or 6 days a week. For me, that's train 6 days a week. It's eat real food, sleep 8 hours, be curious, not judgmental, and surround yourselves with people that want to see you win, that support you, and all the rest. So that's my framework. It's the 5 factors with a descriptor for each. So from that, you know, we can dive down into like further definitions. Like when we say train 5 or 6 days a week, I have a formula for what I mean by train. And when we say sleep 8 hours, well, what is that? Is that like lights on, lights out? Is that by your Whoop? Is that so? There's like, we want to clarify when we say eat real food. What does that mean? So there's just clarifiers for all of these things, but those are the first principles. You know, train 5 or 6 days a week, eat real food, sleep 8 hours, be curious, not judgmental, and surround yourselves with people that want to see you win. So I put everything into those, and I try and fill up each of those buckets.
We did an episode. It was part of an episode where we broke down each one of those kind of first principles of the 5 factors. So if folks want an even deeper dive than perhaps I think we're going to get to today, go back a couple of weeks and you'll be able to find that. Let's start with the top one first, is like what lives in the health stack in the move category?
My biggest one for sure is the combination of CrossFit New England and CompTrain. So I train at CrossFit New England 5 days a week. If I'm here, not away skiing or on the Cape, it's 6 days a week. That's like a religion. It's not even, I do it like I brush my teeth. It's just all the time. And I take class. I take the 7:30 class every single day. So super easy. CrossFit New England follows CompTrain programming. So I go to CFNE to follow the CompTrain programming. comp train programming has 3 days a week of weightlifting, 3 days a week of longer conditioning pieces, and 3 days a week of higher power conditioning pieces. So I feel like I'm getting a really well-rounded move aspect of that. Outside of that, I mean, if we're following Chris's lead, I'm a Noble guy. I have Noble shoes, Noble pants, Noble shorts, Noble shirts. It's like that's what I wear all the time. And I don't know if there's a whole bunch more other move in terms of like the product technology category. There's a little bit habit type stuff, which is when I go to a kids' games, when I go to kids' games, plural,
games of my kids.
Plural possessive. Yes. When I go to my kids' games, I'll be on the sidelines and I'm probably the weird dad that's like stretching all the time. Yeah. Like I'm on the floor doing, as Kelly Starrett says, butt on the ground, creating shapes. Mm-hmm. That's what I do a lot. So I would say that's the other kind of like move tactic hack is I'm outside. I'm going to be spending an hour and a half here. I might as well stretch during that time.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that I would add that you didn't mention that I've started to do now that the weather's nice is trail run on the weekends.
Love it.
Yep. Getting up early. So get up early before the kids get out. We've got a trail. Maybe it's a mile away. Drive up there. It's empty. It's like slightly over a mile to do one loop. So I try to get a couple loops in and then I'm back often before anybody else gets up. Right. And so, we've talked about Sunday Run Day before and comp train's, insistence on running and running a lot. I do think that's really important. I think that over the years is something that I've lost. And so when I've got a treadmill, so I try to do that during the winter, but now that the weather's turning nice, getting outside at least once on the weekend to get in the woods is really nice.
Yeah, I actually do that as well. I do run on an air runner multiple times a week. That's mostly just following the comp train stuff because it's programmed in. And then during the summer, I'll run to the gym. Which
you said that, yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. At the Cape, the gym's 2 miles away, so I'll run there and then drive back with Heather. And I do that most days. Sometimes I'll ride with her and run back. And then my gym here, CrossFit New England, is about 4 miles from my house. And I'll do that like once or twice a week. Definitely not an everyday thing.
Thank you. Okay, let's jump into the eat category. What lives in your health stack in the category of eat?
So the first one that comes up that's most obvious to me is my supplement routine. So I have a number of supplements that I do, and I can run through them, but like when I run through these, I'm not saying like go take these. I've gotten this from a number of different medical people. So I've worked with medical professionals that do a lot of testing to figure out what is the unique things for me. But I do some common things like vitamin D and creatine. I think those are the common ones. Everything else is a little bit specific. I think that the next category of like I do resveratrol, which is that active ingredient in red wine that makes people live forever, but red wine is not a good source for it. I do phosphatidylcholine. I do inulin, DHA. Spirulina is maybe a common one that a lot of people do. I do Methylguard, which is a methylation type thing. But again, I'm not saying go do these things, but I share that only because if you hear it a second time, you might be like, oh, that might be something that I should look into. So that's the first place. And then the next one is I do collagen and protein powder as a normal thing. Element. I do Element every day. And then besides that, it's the real food thing. And the only thing that I would say that we do to try to make that as easy as possible is we get groceries delivered. It's just like, it's a hack. It's real. It saves a lot of time. And we cook real food, and we try to have real food in the fridge all the time and real food leftovers. So whatever was dinner last night is lunch the next morning. And that's kind of how I do it.
I should have mentioned in the move one, I think the other really important thing in that, and you and I both do it, is we start our days with exercise. I think that's really a useful hack if you can pull it off, is to get up and you get to the gym, and most days I get down to the garage. Hard to get distracted between getting out of bed and being there in 15 minutes. Cool. Think category. What do you got?
So I would say that mine basically comes down to two things. One is the James Clear Journal. I love it. I use it every single day. I'm on my third year of it, where I every day for 3 years. I did take a year off in between one of those. I just love the format of it, and I've created my own unique kind of system for it because it's not a system, it's just a journal. Mm-hmm. And then audiobooks. And I thought I would just share, just to give us, here's the last 5 books I read. I'm currently reading Peter Attia's Outlive. The last book before that was The Ideal Team Player, which we did as a book club thing for here. Yep. Before that, it was Same as Ever. I would put Same as Ever as one of my top 5s all time. I loved it.
And that's by Morgan Housel, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Psychology of Money.
So good.
Cool.
Before that, it was Adam Grant's new book, Hidden Potential. Good. It's worth reading. And then before that was 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership.
We talked about that.
Got that from a Tim Ferriss podcast. So that would be the other think is podcasts, but I don't listen regularly to podcasts, which is weird that we're on a podcast saying that. Mm-hmm. But if somebody sends me one, I do try to listen to it. But I have none that I go to on a regular basis. I think that's basically what I do for think. If you had asked me 2 or 3 years ago, it would have been all about breath work and meditation and stillness and finding space and all of that. But to be where my life is right now, those are the things that I'm trying to do to kind of fill up the think bucket is, and another one is the psychotecture. I almost took that, but I'm finishing that one up as well as designing your mind. I actually just finished that one. I usually read 2 books at once. One is my morning book, and the other book is the book that I read throughout the day. Yep. And I journal about the morning book, but that's kind of books and journaling is my think go-to right now. How about yourself?
One of the things that I've added recently is Ryan Holiday sort of repopularized this idea of a page-a-day book, like the Daily Stoic was kind of the classic. And he's since spurred Robert Greene to do one and a couple others. And so what I've started to do is listen to 1 or 2 entries of one of these sort of a page-a-day books. One of them being Daily Dad by Ryan Holiday. Another one, The Creative Act, I think is what it's called, by Rick Rubin, which are short entries. They're not really designed as one a day, but they work as that. And then I just started The Daily Laws by Robert Greene. And again, while I'm making my coffee, I just put they're 3 minutes, 2 minutes each. So it kind of gives me something to think about as I go into the day, as I start the day. And it's nice because I don't often have the time to sit down and read for very long in the morning. Sometimes I do, but it's nice to have something get something in there, get something in the back of my mind, think about it as I kind of get into the day, as I start the day.
Love that. That is a practice I use with my morning book. I only read until I get a takeaway. And once I get a takeaway, I underline it in the book, and then I literally copy it down word for word in my journal. So I've read it, I read it a second time as I'm underlining, and then I write it down myself. So a third time, and I very rarely get past 2 pages. It's usually, sometimes it's a paragraph. It's just the next paragraph is there. And usually if I get through 3 pages, I'm kind of is this a boring part of the book or am I not paying attention?
Yeah. And then so you bring it into the journal and then you sort of ideate on that idea. What am I responding to? Or is it just
no,
just
so my journal practice is multifaceted. I record something that happened yesterday. So remember something. Awesome to look back at the full year at the end of this. It actually doesn't take that long. I thought it'd be I'll never do that. It doesn't take that long to read 365 lines. So I have a thing that I log from every single day that I did yesterday, just so I get out of the monotony of I went to work, I worked out, I came home, I had dinner, I snuggled the kids and went to bed. Which is actually, sometimes it's scary that I have to search for things, which is weird that I don't want to be a rat on a wheel. And that's one of my ways of popping out of the matrix a little bit. Then from there, I go through, and the journal practice is something I appreciate. That used to be gratitude. I'm just so sick of the word gratitude that, because it's also, I don't need to be thankful for it. I could appreciate this. It could be something I appreciate in somebody else. I'm not grateful about that. I could appreciate the way Simon Sinek presents. Doesn't mean I'm grateful for it. I just appreciate that. So and I think it's cool to recognize things that you appreciate. So anyway, I go appreciate. Then I go, what's my intention for the day? Intention doesn't have to be your big one. It's not the most important thing. It could be something that I've just left off the table for long enough, or I know that this is a thing that if I'm not really intentional, it might slip a little bit. So example of that would be yesterday, we had a kid homesick, and I knew that there was going to be work to do So I was like, my intention for the day is to help out in any way I can with carpool, with the sick kid. And I knew that when push came to shove, when Heather called in the middle of the day, like, I need help, I was like, okay. And I texted you. I was like, we got to cancel our podcast. That helps a lot though, right? Like totally I'm saying ahead of time, this is my intention, is to help at home. And if things have to fall off, then they have to fall off. And then the third thing I do is I journal a thought, and the thought is usually just stolen from and copied down. And then I go all the way to the back of the book where there's this checklist, and I record 20 habits that I want to make sure I'm not falling off track.
Love that. Okay, cool. Recover.
So recover is a sleep aid. Man, the sleep aid's awesome. Like the sleep aid's
on my list too.
Pretty damn awesome. So I have a sleep aid, the Hatch for waking up. So that's the sleep stuff. And I don't know if I have a whole lot of other than just like practices, which is we dim the lights. We have a nighttime routine. I don't go on screens once I come home. Now, Bruins are in the playoffs. Celtics are in the playoffs. I'm a Boston sports fan, so I watch those. But other than that, like TV doesn't go on, computer doesn't go on, phone gets put in a drawer. So those are like the products, and that's basically the habits. And we're just trying to be, I wouldn't say, we try to be disciplined is the right word. We're just trying to be, and we're not perfect at all, but we're very intentional as a family of when dinner's over, bedtime starts. We flow from one to the next, because if you don't, man, it's easy to lose 45 minutes. Like the TV goes on and you want to watch a rerun of Friends, good luck getting to bed on time. We eat dinner at about 6:15, so that takes us to 7. We're trying to go upstairs at 7:45. So that's not a lot of time to do like the dishes and check in on homework and make some lunches for the next day. Like that goes away really fast. So if we're walking upstairs somewhere around 7:45 to 8, we'll know that we'll be brushing our teeth somewhere at 8 to 8:15, snuggles a book. We're in bed at 8:15 to 8:30, and that's what time we go to bed as a family. So if we're going to get, I try to be in bed, asleep in my bed before 9. I wake up at 6. That's the 9 hours in bed, which gets me 8 hours of sleep is the way I do it. Not a lot of products, more just kind of like routine and processes. Yeah.
I'll just add a few things that I use or that I do. With you on the 8 sleep. I wear a Fitbit to track a number of things. It's just a simple tracker. But one of the things I do look at on a regular basis is how much sleep I'm getting over the course of like 7 days. Less worried about like what happened last night, because I've noticed that if I can look over the last 7 days and I'm certainly under 7 hours, but it's often like if I'm under 7.5 hours of actual sleep, I can really start to feel it. And so I know that I've got to put some real energy into getting to bed slightly earlier. So that's one thing. The other thing that I try really hard to do is to have a good book of fiction that I'm in the midst of reading, because I find that if I'm excited about that book, I'll get to bed earlier, and it satisfies the same sort of seeking of novelty and story and escape as like I think we're looking for when we turn on Netflix, like what's on here, what can I watch, but without any of the downsides of Netflix, right? With the hour and a half later, because you're already in bed. I read like 5 pages and I tend to pass out. And so for me, it's always about how can I make going to bed as enticing as possible. And so the sleep aid does that. The book does that. I do use the sauna blanket from Bon Charge at least 2 or 3 times a week, because again, that begins the process of going to bed even earlier for me, because I'll go in, I'll do that for 45 minutes and then immediately shower and I'm into bed. And so it kind of starts the process and avoids or eliminates any space I have to like just get distracted by silly things. And then the last one is kind of a silly one, but I kind of have a rule for myself that I just won't start watching a show. Like I won't start watching a show that I know is like 12 hours or 12 episodes, because I don't want to give it 12 hours. Happy to watch a movie, happy to watch a rerun because I can dip in and out of that whenever. But like I just won't start a show because I know I want to watch it because they're really good at making shows.
Yeah.
So I just kind of have that rule.
Yeah. Agreed with that. Yep. It's a huge investment. When we think about like, man, I'm going to give up. It's big. But I feel the same way about movies, because I know it's going to be over and I'm not going to get sucked into that little thing that pops up at the corner is like, next episode will be starting in 4, 3, 2. And you're like, I want to see. I want it. Yes. So,
last one, connect.
Oh, boy.
You struggling with this one too?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I think that the gym is the thing for me with that.
Yep.
I have that 6 days a week, and it really is my social outlet. It is my way to connect with people outside my family. Other than that, I'm pretty bad at this. Other than, one of my very best friends is good at it, so it helps a lot. So like this Friday, we're both leaving work at noon and going for a hike in the mountains together.
Awesome.
So that's awesome. Like,
Yep.
I don't know how good I would be with that if he wasn't good at it.
Yep.
The other thing is like...
So your tactic is find other people who are good at it.
Yeah, right. Surround yourself with people that want to see you win. They're there to... Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And then the other one is I am good at this with my family. Like
Yes.
I'm home every night. We have dinner together. I'm in the backyard on the trampoline. I'm in the front yard playing basketball. I'm going to their practices and their games. We're driving in cars. Like we go skiing on the week. So I'm good at this with my family. Really good at it with Heather. But outside of that, this is not something that I would say that I'm crushing this category.
Yeah, I just start podcasts with my friends so that I can talk to them on a regular basis.
Exactly, right? I love that.
But I'm with you on the kids thing. And for me, it's like success for me as a parent is most days I'm there for drop off at bus in the morning and in the afternoon. Like to me, that's it's a small thing, but it's a metric for me to make sure that I am actually fully present here. And so that's one thing. But I'm with you. The connect one is hard. It's hard to find the space for it, but I love that, you've got a buddy who will do it. And I think that's really important is if you are good at it, drag your friends into it who perhaps aren't, because it's unlikely that they don't want to be better at it, but it could be just they don't exactly know what to do or how to do it.
Yeah. Or marry somebody that's good at it because they do it for you.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, even to the point where like, one of my really good friends, Heather, was like, hey, have you seen Scott in a little bit? I was like, I haven't. He's just like, you should reach out. So we went and had lunch, a couple days ago. So it's like, that's like marry somebody who's good at it.
Hi, my friend. That was fun. That was a health stack. Again, thanks to, what was his name, Chris?
Yes, Chris Boyd.
Yeah, thanks to Chris for that idea. That was fun. Thanks everybody out there for listening. Let us know as we get into this new format what you think, what you want to see. If you've been listening for a while, what you want us to bring back. That'd be really fun. Best way to do that, www.chasingexcellence.email. Get on the newsletter list, send out an email. Just hit reply and send me a note. Let me know what you want. Thank you so much. Ben and I will be back next week for a brand new episode of Chasing. Actually, not next week, this week. Hey, I got to get into that habit now. We'll be back in a couple of days with a brand new episode of Chasing Excellence.